I'm Gary. I'm a recovering alcoholic of 2.5 years this time. I once quit for 10 years and fired it back up, which wasn't good. I'm in a very good place now. Uh, my wife, my wife is a cancer survivor, but is not even close to being done the battle. There's lots going on there for the last 5 years. It might seem weird, but um, my battle with alcoholism and her battle with cancer kind of came to a clash, and it's made me a better person today. Who I am is how I try to look at it. That I got a DUI driving while my wife was in chemotherapy. And I don't think I couldn't have been any lower at that time. But I think I was fortunate for that to happen to me, that I was pulled over. I wasn't in an accident. I didn't harm anybody else. But it gave me a baseline of the lowest point in my life where I'm going to stop. And I've been able to bury that person that on that day, that version of myself, my earlier self, has been buried. And from that point on, I became a born again human being with the help of Alcoholics Anonymous. Took me a while to get in there, but it's a fabulous organization. It's great. It's it points people in the right direction. Gives you all the tools, I guess it is, that a person needs in recovery. And outside of that, I'm part of a men's mental health group, which I think coincides with addiction. I think I have some mental health issues, whether it's chemical or just the way I was raised, the life I've lived, the experience I had. I think all that mental health and holding it in be manifested and came out in my alcoholism and stuff like that. And my wife has told me since sobering up that there was going to be an intervention. And I honestly believe that would have backfired on me. I don't think I ever would have listened to anybody else. I think I needed to feel that pain. I needed to be at the bottom. I had to, I had to find my lowest point before I could realize where I was, and that I needed to get the hell out of that and get sober. Been married 25 years, and the last 2.5 are probably the best years, even with my wife's health, which is old. It's good. She has one more procedure coming up here, and it's nerve wracking. It's scary. She doesn't have the immune system, the fight. Chemotherapy, radiation really knocks the crap out of the body. She's still not the same person. Mentally, there's challenges. They call it cancer brain, not to be mixed up with brain cancer, but the memory goes, and you you forget things, or you misinterpret things on different levels, and some days it's not noticeable, some days it's just the little things. It's a challenge, but we're up for that challenge, and we grow together.
Mhm.
And I'm happy where I'm at right now. I'm happy. I don't want to say I'm happy that these things happen to us, because that isn't true. But these things that happen to us made us who we are today, I think. I believe
Mhm.
that's how I think of it. Incredible growing moments. You can either, at the beginning of that cancer, I guess, in our struggle, I didn't grow. I ran, I hid, I buried myself in alcohol. And coming out of that now, you grow from it. You learn from all those mistakes, and I made so many. But now I've learned through so many people that I've met in my sobriety and in my mental health recovery that all these things happen for a reason, and you can let them beat you down and knock you down, or you learn from them and you grow from them. And I've learned from so many great people how to turn that around, and how to perspective, I guess, is what's happened with me. Is I've completely changed my perspective, and the glass is half full, not half empty anymore. Some good things can come out of some bad.
Mhm. So when you say that you came to a realization while you were at rock bottom, do you remember what that realization was?
I realized what I had done to myself and what I had done to my family.
Mm.
I took ownership of it all immediately. It was like the second I walked into the police station. I know in my mind I'm not going to beat the main machine. I'm drunk. I'm very drunk. I'm very inebriated, and you, they give you a breathalyzer at the police station, and then I believe they have to wait a certain amount of time, and then they give you a second breathalyzer there. And the police officer I had was unbelievable. And it's hard to believe that I can remember this, but I guess you just snap out of that, because I don't know. I don't know how I got to where I was when I was pulled over by the police. So to remember the conversation or parts of it, but I remember telling him I'll never drink again,
Mhm.
and telling him my whole story kind of thing. And I'm drunk and I'm sobbing, and I'm almost sick to my stomach, thinking I have to go home and tell my wife, and I have to tell my family, and I have to tell all these people what I've done. And I knew in that moment that things were different, that I was going to be different. It took probably a month of feeling god awful in the basement, isolation, hiding out. And I wish at that time I had been journaling, or at
Mhm.
least wrote down a few things, because I really don't remember that. That I know on a day to day basis, time stood still. But when I look back on it, it only seems like a few moments that I remember being in that depressed state.
Right.
And I sought counseling, and had a very good addictions counselor and stuff. And through the addictions counselor, uh, I found a bunch of other pathways. Eventually found myself at AA. I don't know why I was resistant to AA, but I was. Um, I enjoy it quite a bit now, and there's some very good people there. And through counseling, I also found my way to the Brotherhood of Belonging, the men's mental health group that was really an eye opener, and it gave me all the tools that I shouldn't say all the tools. It gave me quite a few tools to help me with what I was facing, and as little things like reading something positive in the morning, which I do, uh, journaling, giving yourself some credit. Um, Gratitude journaling, I think, was probably the biggest thing when you're feeling so low, so down and out, so helpless. And writing down the things that I have 3 children and soon to have a fifth grandchild. It's already a week overdue. So I have so many things in my life to be grateful for and happy for.
Mm-hmm.
Eh, We don't always think that way.
I think we get stuck in the that's how it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're supposed to have a family. We're supposed to instead of being grateful that we do.
Yeah.
And then we're like when it comes to the bad, we're always like that's not supposed to happen. It's like everything's supposed to be perfect. So then we just hyper focus on that.
Yeah. And we always see we always see the perfect families on the outside, but we don't know what happens behind those closed doors. And I've yet to meet a family that doesn't have an issue,
Mm-hmm.
or a person even. Everybody out there has something going on.
I
What?
read just this morning. I have like a daily dad reader, and it was talking about this football running back who had alopecia. Do you know what that is?
Uh-huh.
That's with the hair. You can't grow hair fully, so you got
Yeah.
like chunks everywhere, and so it's like and he got bullied at school for it and things like that. Got picked on, and then what his parents told him that he remembers is all these kids are going through something. Yours is just visible,
Yeah.
but some of those kids aren't eating every day. Some of those kids parents got divorced. Some of those kids, and yours just happens to be visible,
That's right.
but everybody's going through something.
Yeah. And I don't think we always realize that other people are going through stuff too, right? And I think we all are. For me, the best thing to do is to talk about it, to get it out in the open. I'm a, I'm a coffee person. I like to go for coffee with someone and have a one-on-one. And if
Mm-hmm.
there's, or more people than that, but let's talk about it. Let's put it on the table, discuss it together. There's no judgment. There's no embarrassment. There's none of that. I think one of the first things I realized I had to do to turn a corner for myself was make myself vulnerable. And that can take so many different forms of being vulnerable. And you have to remind yourself. And I think I'm at a point now that it's almost natural to try and just put yourself out there or admit your faults. I'm in construction, and for a lot of times it's you don't admit your faults and you didn't do that wrong and you didn't do this
Right.
and that. And you should know that. And I'm a senior construction worker, so I should know that. And now yeah, ooh, didn't do that right, did I? Or this is wrong or that's wrong or I don't know that. It's okay to say I don't know, and it's okay to say I made a mistake, and it's okay
Mm-hmm.
to make those mistakes and move on. Admit being human, I guess, right? Like I think that
So it's a lot easier too than pretending
the
something
amount of
else.
stress that has left my life
Yeah.
because I try to make myself vulnerable. And I didn't even realize that for quite a few months. And then it's like, wow, I don't worry about that. I don't worry about this.
Mm-hmm.
I admit it when I get home. Yes, honey, I was wrong. I did that. There's no fights. It it's a calm, loving beautiful environment at my house now, and it's been a long time since it's been like that. With Christmas coming up, it's a great thing.
Hmm.
Wrapping Christmas presents today for the grandkids. That's pretty fulfilling, to be honest.
How do you guys do Christmas?
It's different every year.
Okay, us too. Us too.
You know, it's I come from divorced parents, single mom, and so it started with my generation. And my kids are the same, except for my youngest daughter. There's with my present wife, my son and daughter. They're from previous relationship, and my son-in-law, his parents are divorced. So when it comes to Christmas, there's so many families and stuff to consider, and we're pretty flexible in our house. So whatever works, works, and
Hmm.
we'll get together when we get together. Sometimes it's before. Last year was on Christmas Day, pretty rare for us with the grandkids, and this year we probably take the back seat again, right? So whenever it works out, they usually come over to our place and rip the house apart in 5 minutes and start playing, and we'll have a bite to eat. And it'll be my two daughters, my my daughter-in-law, I guess. My son is not in a good way. He's an addict living on the streets out in Kelowna right now, which is it's very, very tough. Being an addict myself and seeing him go through this, and we don't really know where he is except that he's on the streets and doing street drugs. We hear every few months from a hospital or a police. Mm. And that's a whole different topic, I guess, right there.
That's tough.
It's very tough. And you see it across, I say North America. I know it's probably worldwide epidemic on street drugs, addiction. I don't know that anyone has an answer to it, right? How did we get into this situation? It just grows and grows and grows. And you see it around Saskatoon all the time. And I, I think it's been, I was out in Vancouver 20 years ago and it was happening there then,
Right.
and it hasn't been corrected. Like, so how do we solve something as complicated as that? How do I tell my 38-year-old son that his 3-year-old son in Saskatoon is more important than the drugs he's doing out there? And I had never heard of this before till last year, that my son is diagnosed with being in a drug-induced psychosis,
Hmm.
where you're doing these drugs or experimenting with these drugs, and now you're just gone 24/7. Your mind is just in this psychosis, and it doesn't make sense anymore. It I can't even relate to it. Even being an addict, I cannot relate to what that would be like,
Right.
to live in a bus stop, to live under a bench, to shelter to shelter.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much judgment when it comes to that, that it's always the homeless, this, that, but it's not. It's everybody's kids, and it's all walks of life. And
Somebody's son,
so
somebody's daughter,
that's right.
somebody's
That's right.
spouse.
And how did they get there?
Right.
It's not the poor, the impoverished, the weak,
No.
it my son came from a fairly decent family, and You know, his own mother has been sober for over 30 years. Um, Myself, I struggled with some alcoholism, but not really the drug side of things. And he was sober. His son was born, and he got sober for a year. And somewhere towards the end of that year, we seen a change in him. And he was living in Saskatoon, and I don't know how it started, why it started. It seemed like everything was going really well for him. And he just left. He left the city. He left his son. He left the woman I thought he loved high and dry, went out to BC, and we never heard from him for months. And when we heard from him, he wanted money. He's living on the street and had all kinds of crazy stories, that weren't true. That it's terrible, and I expect that phone call. And no matter how much you prepare yourself, you'll never be ready for that phone call.
So with all these, you know, like you mentioned, you've been able to kind of you've been able to kind of build some tools,
Yeah.
some ways to ground yourself. How do you stay grounded in obviously these aren't easy situations to be in.
I, I honestly don't know some days.
Yeah.
I know there's people out there who've been through worse.
Right.
And I have a loving family. Um, my dad wasn't around much growing up, but I always said that I didn't have a very good dad, but I had the best mom. So she made up for my dad, and a brother, older brother, and older sister. And we've always been very close and tight and rely on each other quite a bit. Um, some of that fades as you get a little bit older, that, like, my brother and sister, they have their own families as well, their kids. And mom gets a little bit older and stuff, and she needs a bit more support than being our support, I guess. Uh, my wife and kids, my in-laws, I, I have all these people and friends that are such an amazing support. And I know there's so many people out there that have gone through worse than I've gone through or we've gone through. And they don't have that support. They don't have that, Um, regards to my wife's cancer, it was detected in the nick of time. We live in Saskatoon with one of the best cancer centers in North America, I believe I'm told. I count my blessings, it's the gratitude. Can always get tougher, right? Mm-hmm. You can always find yourself getting knocked down again. Certain days I feel invincible. I really do.
Yeah.
Emotionally, that it's okay to cry. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to express all this. And I have to get it out. I call it dump trucking, and I did that for a long time. Just hang on to it, build up, and just let it out. and it doesn't come out good. It comes out in anger, swear words, and insults and stuff like that. So communication and letting all that stuff out instead of letting things build up is a big way of dealing with those speed bumps, those roadblocks, those valleys that help you get up the other side, and relying on the people you know. It's the internet. It can be a terrible thing, but it can be a really good tool when you're looking for something.
Yeah.
When you're looking for the right podcast, when you're looking for wisdom, when you're sometimes just a quote from somebody else or hearing somebody else's experience. And when I was down and out, I was watching all kinds of Instagram posts and stuff like that, self help and stuff. And there's one I still watch now and then. That's and the guy said, "What's in your cup? What are you putting in your cup?" And that really stuck with me. Like, what am I putting in my cup? Now that it's not alcohol, what am I putting in that cup? And I've tried to make it positive, constructive, loving. It all the good that is out there goes into my cup. And bad is going to show up and bad is going to be there right when you don't expect it. That valley is going to show up. If you have the right stuff that's in that cup, it's a couple sips of that cup is going to help you get through those valleys, those bad times. And so watching, all those cliches, this happened for a reason. There's so many cliches out there, but if you really listen to them and really think about them, they're almost all exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
We're not the first. Our generation isn't the first generation on this planet and doing this. It's been going on forever, right? And we live at a very, very fast-paced life here in 2025, right? So sometimes we have to slow down and pump the brakes
Mm-hmm.
and quit listening to everybody else. That's what
Shrink our world a little bit.
shrink our world. That is
It
that
doesn't
is
have to
so
be
good.
this.
Shrink our world, and it everything in my life kind of happened at the right time. I think my kids are adults. I'm over that hump. I see younger people and stuff that are just starting their families and buying their homes and trying to get their careers together and stuff. And it's such a panic. It's such a panic. And I was no different at that age and at that stage in my life. You want to get stability underneath you. You want that job. You want to be promoted at work. You want to get that house. You want to buy that bigger house. You want to get that car. You need a new car. You need a boat. Is it all because of the neighbor has one? You don't have one. The whole keeping up with the Joneses thing. And for me, I think the becoming born again happened at the right time in my life where my kids were older. I wasn't worried about my career. I had done my job as a father. Now I get to pump the brakes a little bit and do my job as a grandpa. The house isn't paid for, I guess, but we're living comfortably. I have a home. I have a roof over my house. The job is I do okay at work. I I don't have that drive, that need for the next thing. I don't I don't need to accumulate. Maybe that's what it is, that I'm content. I think I finally got to a point in my life where it's content to get up every morning and go to work and not worry about working extra hours to make more money to get that next thing. My wife is on permanent disability, so that's a fixed income, but we're okay.
Can you like remember, just from hearing you, I was thinking about do you remember who you were when you were a teenager, or
Mm-hmm.
who you were in your 20s, who you were in your 30s, and when you compare yourself now to those people?
Yes, I, I do that quite a bit, and it's kind of part of this 12 steps of AA. I recently ran into a guy that I worked for right out of high school and stuff like that. And he actually said those words. You seem content, Gary. Back in those days, you were always striving and you were going for the next thing, the next big thing. And it's like my arrogance, that I had to have that job that paid more money. I had to have that truck. I had to have that. And I had to have those things to show people that I was better than them, that I was a big deal, that I wasn't content. I wasn't happy with myself. So I had to have these other things to show everybody how good I was, what a great person I was. And I really wasn't a great person. I I started in construction, and it was a different world then, and everybody yelled at you, and you're a low man on the pole. By the time I got up to that journeyman foreman status, well, I had an attitude and arrogance, just yelled at guys. What's wrong with you? I probably even called them stupid. It was just awful when I look back at how I treated some people, and I'm friends with some of those people now, and we talk, and maybe I just didn't like myself when I look back at it. And I can remember being bullied, but then I remember bullying other people like right back, let's belittle that person over there because you feel little yourself kind of thing, You don't think that way at the time, of course, but I sure did it, and it was a different time, nobody nobody ever thought about men's mental health, and men definitely didn't cry and didn't talk about those sensitive things, and it's kind of crazy because today I went for lunch with a friend, my best friend, my oldest friend, known each other since we were 15 years old. He lives in Edmonton now, and he came to town, and we went for lunch. We ended up talking for over 3 hours and sitting there, and neither of us had ever had that type of conversation with each other. And at different points in the conversation, I was teared up and it was running down my face. And then later on, he was crying. And I've known this guy, 40 plus years. I don't think I've ever seen him cry. He's a tough guy, works road construction, hard, manly man. Back in 1992, him and I had some money. When we got on an airplane, we flew to Mexico City with backpacks. And we traveled from Mexico City across to Cancun for 3 months, motorbikes, buses. And that was a different time too. It wasn't cartel filled Mexico. Not sure if it'd be safe to do now, but that was a life changing experience we had. And I let it go to waste for a few years because of what we encountered, learned, experienced in that 3 months. And today we were able to reflect and go back. And it makes me emotional. Sorry. That some of the best memories of those 3 months were when we were helping the most vulnerable and not even realizing what we were doing at the time. We were there. We had days where we just threw money around, and buy drinks and do this. And we were in the interior of Mexico, not in the tourist areas. That's surprising. I guess we'd keep very little cash on us, or you'd think we would have got mugged or ruled, but it didn't happen. And the people there were just beautiful, wonderful, giving, great people. But there was one day that we talked about in length today, that we were on these dirt bikes, motorbikes, and we just pulled up a hot day. I always had these little cantinas would make rotisserie chicken, and we lived on that rotisserie chicken and beer. Nachos. Well, not the nachos we get here, but um then as we get off our motorbikes, we look over and there's these young kids playing basketball. I think it was like 4-on-4. So we went over and we played basketball for probably an hour with these young kids, and just fun. And they didn't know us and we didn't know them, and we didn't speak enough Spanish and they definitely didn't speak English. And after we played basketball, we're hot, we're sweating, and I can remember my buddy saying, "Come on, we'll buy you guys a beer." And they're like, well, kids. So we bought them pop. We went over to this little beer cantina, and there was some locals in this tiny little village. And it was, while we were playing basketball, it was like this small little audience of 10 parents maybe came over and watched us. We went over and we got that rotisserie chicken and we started eating it, and we got, cervezas for ourselves and some orange crush for these kids. And then some other locals came over. And I bet you we sat there for 2 hours with minimal amount of communication going on, our broken Spanish, and just this amazing day. And we talked about that for a good half hour, maybe an hour today, just that one experience and what it meant to us. And we were joking about it today. Like, what did those kids think of us? Who the heck were those two tall,
Mm-hmm.
skinny white guys playing basketball with us? But it was moments like that, and all the poverty-stricken kids back then would sell these little, I think there were 5 or 6 packs of chiclets, just tiny little things. And they'd come up to you on the streets and you just give them change and they'd give you these chiclets. Well, I got home after 3 months of that trip. I dumped out my backpack and I had 2,000 chiclets in the bottom of this pack. It was, but then once we got back here, and my buddy was the same. He said, like, we came out of that with this recognition of simplicity can be so fulfilling, and giving can be so good for your soul and your heart and all these things. And we didn't need these big things. We made our way across the country and we got to Cancun, and it's like, holy cow, look at this. An adult playground kind of thing, all the beaches and the toys and the booze and the parties and stuff like that. And by the time we get back to Canada, you almost forget it. And we buried it. But today we delved into that pretty hard, and it's funny what sticks with your memory, with your soul. I couldn't tell you too much about what happened on in Cancun, but I could tell you about what happened with a few of those charitable moments, or those times helping out. There's so much poverty we witnessed, kids bathing in ditches, and I don't know where that water would have come from. And maybe it's normal, maybe it's healthy. I don't really know, but to me, it's almost a shame it takes like a lifetime to realize that simplicity is so much better. I don't know how else to say that, but sitting back and soaking it all in, and
What do you
yeah,
think? What do you think makes a good life, in your opinion?
geez, I'm not sure I'm there yet, but I don't mean that I'm not having a good life. I don't know that I'm there to be able to say what gives a good life, but fulfillment has got to be so high up there that
Yeah,
finding balance and love and
purpose.
purpose, yeah, like
So different for everyone too.
it's so different for everybody, and everybody's purpose is different, right? I think it's I, my purpose, I think, is to share my experience with a lot of younger people, and it, I've had people share their experiences with me, and it's helped me so much. It's understanding that someone had gone through something, a tragedy, or whatever it was in their life, and to talk to them on the other side, how they came through that and everything is unbelievable for me. That helps with my healing, my well-being, knowing that there is a way through this. There is light at the end of the tunnel, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, like 'cause we go we go for coffee every couple weeks.
Yeah.
Like the last couple months, we've been kind of going. So Gary messaged me today for coffee, and I said, "Let's have a coffee and do a podcast instead." and uh, and now he's here. Now he's here. He sounded nervous at the beginning.
Very, yeah. I, I think that's, to me, it was a sign getting a message from you today after having this tense, emotional day
Mm.
with uh, like someone I've known almost my whole life, at 16, 15, you're just coming into being a man, right? Like, and we went through that together and stuff, and we've always maintained a friendship. But he lost a stepson 2 years ago at Christmas time to a drug overdose. So that kind of started our conversation today because a year ago, last November is when my son disappeared, and I never really talked to him about it because I didn't want to stir things up with what was going on in his life.
Yep.
But today we talked about it and we shed those tears and we talked about vulnerability. We talked about all the stupid things we did growing up, but how those helped us learn, simple things like you don't lip off the biggest guy in the bar, like that might be extreme, but those were the kind of life lessons that him and I went through for, it, probably from 15 to about 30, and then your adult life takes over and he's working on the road and he stops coming back to Saskatoon as often as he used to. It becomes once at Christmas time, right? We'll go for lunch at Christmas and catch up. And we did do a few vacations together at all inclusive resorts in Mexico and stuff, which wasn't even close to anything like what we had went through, or or did back in '92. And to me, it was the fact that you contacted me today after meeting with him. I had this overwhelming flood of emotion today, and so much love. I went home and hugged my wife after lunch with my old buddy, and she didn't believe me at first. You and Greg talk like that? Yep, we did. She couldn't picture it.
That's funny.
It is funny. And the fact that he was it it wasn't like I needed a pry bar or, to get it out of him. We just started talking, and I knew that's where I was, and he was completely comfortable with it. You think
So
you know somebody, and I just really didn't know that side of him.
sometimes, like when you have a friend that you've always had, you just do what you've always done,
Yes.
and even though it's been, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40 years and you've both grown and changed so much, but you connected on this one thing, so you just stay at that one thing,
Yeah, that's right.
you know, whether it's a beer or a video game or a
Yeah.
sport or something, but you're both just like have evolved so much, but you've just never explored, you know?
There's so much to what you just said there that, because normally it'd be over a beer, right? And I don't know why it is, but you can always find a conversation when you're drinking beer, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's sports, politics, something. But today was a non-alcoholic one,
Clear.
clear,
Yeah.
beautiful, comfortable environment. It was just a really, really good day.
So for you, what do you think makes a meaningful friendship?
That is a really, really good question because I think I've adjusted with so many of my friendships and relationships in the last few years, whether good or bad. I try to eliminate anything that's toxic, anything that's opinionated, anything that's
Mm,
judgmental.
right.
So when I look at some of my oldest friends, and a lot of them alcohol based friendships, I, I've I've kind of pushed that away, and not, with my friend there today. He still drinks. He's still a social drinker and does whatever he wants. But may, maybe I do need to open that door a little bit more to some of the older friends that I used to drink with, that I consider, you know, well, they're just my drinking buddies and stuff. And today talking with a friend that I thought I knew inside and out, on a different level. So to your question there, that I think my friend Craig and I, our relationship, like you said it, we grew and we did, and we had so much and all that. We always come back to each other and stuff. And I think we've always trusted each other. We've got this
Mm,
incredible trust, and like we hold secrets. He could tell a lot of secrets about me, and I could tell. There's that trust that we've been through these things, and
it's interesting that you say that because I have friends that are like newer friends
yeah,
that I feel like I'm so connected to.
yeah.
I have friends that are 2, 3, 4 years old that I feel like I'm so connected to. I have friends that are 20 years old that I feel like I'm so connected to. and then the total opposite. You know, I have friends that are 20 years old that like I would not tell them anything.
Yeah,
5 years, and it's interesting that you say trust because now thinking about it, the ones that I feel so connected to, I trust them. I would
yeah,
trust them with anything, even like new friends that I just know I would trust them.
yeah.
They're just like their values are good. They're just like a light, you know, and I know that they would never do anything to harm me.
That's
They
right.
want to see me do well.
Yeah.
And I think it does come down to trust now that you say that.
It My wife has a group of friends. It's sort of unbelievable that they go back. I think there's about 6 girls in that little her group, and some of them go back to elementary school, and they're still
Wow.
tight as can be. It's almost unheard of. Like,
That's
I
so rare. Yeah.
yeah, and, you know, that, some of them live out in Calgary and, you know, different cities and stuff like and they still get together, and they're just this unbelievable group of, uh friends and support for us when things were at their worst, you know, and I relied on them because heaven forbid I phoned a man up and cried over the phone and told him what I'm going through, you know. It was rare to find um, a man that I could do that with and stuff like that. So those girls were very important to me. So some of my wife's friends
Mhm.
are now close friends of mine, you
Right.
know, that
I can relate to that.
yeah, that there's certain people that you let in. Not sure if that's the right way to say it, but there's certain people you let into that my bubble, you know, my sacred bubble that I don't want anyone to pop or get in or and that's where I keep that
Mhm.
toxic people out of there. One thing I've learned is that everybody seems to have opinions,
Yeah.
and I'm really not interested in people's opinions anymore. If you want to share an experience, I love that,
Mhm.
you know, some things. But there,
What I think you should do is
yeah, how could you guys do that, you know?
yeah.
And it's like, what are you guys thinking? Um,
Yeah.
well, there there's so much in life, right? That all the choices we make, and people will get to see the choices you make, you know, that's on the outside. But like if for my marriage and my wife's health and myself and everything, basically the last 5 years has been a heavy challenge. Um, but people see the choices that we've made, but nobody knows the decisions we've had to make, right? Behind those closed doors. The decisions you make on your health, on your
Mm.
financial decisions because of that health. Um, you know, I don't think I've ever had it happen to me, but I've seen it happen to people where someone is criticizing someone else on their parenting, you know, uh, and that's their opinion. Your opinion on how to parent. Well,
Right.
keep it to yourself.
Mhm.
I just, to me, opinions are poison. You know, ask me if you want to give me some advice. Ask me first. If can I give you some advice on that, and I'll usually say yeah. But when someone just blurts something out at you, it's kind of like I think there's a
Mhm.
lot of judgment in that. Let's let's go for coffee and discuss it, you know, and um, wording of so many things sometimes is so crucial.
Yeah.
Just saying a little bit softer, a little bit nicer, working it in there. Think about what you're gonna say. Don't just blurt it out. I don't mean no, I blurt things out all the time, but like, and to a negative result usually too. You know, But I
But I
mean,
think
what
when you blurt, it's usually about yourself. You're not blurting like somebody will be, and then you'll just share a moment of your life that you experienced similar. It's not like you're not blurting at them,
right?
you know? That
Yeah, I think so. I think I know what you're saying, and that y- I'll probably finish this up and go, oh, I remember I just gave someone my opinion, or tomorrow morning I'm going to give someone my opinion. Like I'm
yeah.
not perfect. I'm flawed through and through and make mistakes every day, every hour and stuff like that. But as a whole, in the last few years, when I look back at destructive things and things that have hurt our family, our things is, I think it was opinions. As
Mhm.
simple as that. That people coming to us and telling us what we should do with our lives, but they've never been anywhere close to what we've been through, you know?
Right.
It's try and walk in someone's shoes before you tell them.
Well, we're coming up to an hour. Yeah, I know.
Wow. I haven't even
And I'm
been
gonna share my opinion.
I'm gonna give you an opinion on this last hour, by the way.
uh, but no, I wanted to say like, how long have I known you? 2 years,
Yeah, that's
maybe a
perfect.
little bit more. I think one thing I've noticed about you, you know, you know, you've gone through some heavy things. You know,
Yeah.
like it hasn't been easy, but you always have a smile,
Oh,
and you're always putting an effort to make other people feel good. You know, I never leave being around you like, oh, I don't want to be around him. He's, you know, it's like your presence, the energy you give, it's always uplifting. It's always like in a helpful way. It's always like good, you know.
thank you
Um,
for saying that. That's
yeah, and I that's what I think attracts people to you, you know, is that energy you have even though you might not be feeling it yourself all the time.
I'm not, and that is something like that is something I witnessed in men that I want to be like, you know. I look at some of the long terms sober men in AA, for example, you know. And that was through counseling, I was told I need to find a good, solid male role model. You know, I need somebody in my life that is, and I started looking. Maybe I started paying attention to men in my life, you know, and who was and who wasn't, and there's a lot of good men out there,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of great men out there, and you just have to open your eyes and find them. And I've been fortunate that I've put myself in places that aren't bars and aren't, you know, these negative places. I put myself in positive places where I'm going to meet these people that are in, um, you know, in the coffee shops and talking positive at AA, at a men's mental health group, at surrounding yourself with the positive people when things go sideways and go negative, whether it's at work or anything like that. I'm fortunate in what I do for a living that if there is an issue, a situation that is going negative or whatever, I can just walk away, and I do. And I'll, you know, whether it's for 5 minutes or for an hour, I'll drive away, I'll go and I'll come back, and I won't let it upset me if they're upset, and I'll let it flow over, and that usually fixes everything. And that was taught to me by a good man, you know. And you and I know some very, very good men that have been such an amazing positive influence on me. And you know, some of those, I want to be like those guys.
Mm-hmm.
I want, I want someone to look at me like I look at that guy right over there.
Right.
And that, that keeps me going, you know. It's, my dad passed about 2 years ago. Um, and he was not a positive influence in my life, you know. He was a tough dad. He was a hard nosed screamer, yeller, and not the best influence on me growing up. And I was a lot like him, I think, for quite a few years. Even before my sobriety, I started seeing myself in a bad light, and I was making that turn. I don't want to be that angry person. I don't want to be that guy anymore, you know. And then with sobriety, there was no way I could have done it if I hadn't gotten sober or found sobriety by my group. But I really love life right now, you know. I do. I have so much going on in such a great way. Mm-hmm. I've been pretty fortunate, man. Especially get to know you and all that comes with it, right?
Good looks.
Yeah, you are so good looking. You know, I don't
Thank
know
you.
why you don't shave that beard off and show us the true beauty.
That's where my power comes from.
Is that the power beard?
Yeah.
Love it.
This is a part of me.
How long have you had that beard?
Maybe it's got to be 10, 12 years.
Really?
'Cause I
Without
didn't,
shaving it off once?
no trimming. I know I've shaved it because amateur boxing,
Oh,
they
right.
used to not let you have a beard. They just changed it recently. So when I would fight, I would shave it off. But like, I've never been like clean shaven for any other reason
No,
for a while. I don't know.
it looks pretty thick.
Thank
I'm
you.
lucky that way. Once a week.
I shaved this morning.
Mm.
This is my 5 o'clock shadow.
Wow. See, I couldn't join in the Movember because the month's not long enough for me to grow a mustache. Maybe if I started this November, I'll have it for next November or something like that.
All right, well, let's call it there.
Thank
That was
you.
awesome.
You
It
think
was
so?
awesome to have you, man.